Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story this collection is from Wonderful-B, 8980. AITA for cutting ties with my parents. Because they support my brother, my daughter. I come from a big family, me, 35F, and all my siblings, 3 brothers and 2 sisters, are close, love and support each other deeply. Relationship with parents has been active. I see them often. I have 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy. My family has been involved heavily in my kids' lives from the beginning. It isn't uncommon for a sibling to take my older 2 kids for an outing, or even for a weekend. They'll do things like skating, surfing, rock climbing, hiking, trail running, camping, biking, etc. It's been really amazing to have my siblings be so involved with my kids. Things really crashed down almost 3 months ago when one of my children told me that my brother, her uncle, 37M, abused her on an outing. I'm not going into detail, but it was severe. She told me not long after it happened. I called the police and pressed charges. It was a stressful investigation. He was arrested, and we are going through a criminal court process. I told my sisters and one of my brothers the same day I made the initial report to police, but I kept it a secret from my parents because I didn't want to risk the offender being tipped off. That first month was emotional hell for me. I went through many conflicting emotions. I started off with rage, but I eventually fell into pleading for it to not be true and mourning this person I thought I knew. Even asking myself, is there a possibility that he has some kind of brain tumor? This isn't the person I know. But I will say that though I was going through an internal emotional roller coaster, I never lost sight of my action plan. I was very focused on the investigation. I mean, my actions were a stark contrast of what I was feeling. When it came to an action plan, I was a machine. And I set the stage for an arrest to be made. Although the arrest was my goal, it was still devastating for me. I had a breakdown that day. I got the call that he was arrested. I had a panic attack. Even though what he did was heinous, I still struggled with imagining him in jail and scared, knowing he just lost everyone and everything. Seeing his name, stats, and charges on the county jail record online was a step further into making it real. It took a little while for my emotions to match 100% with my action plan. I'm so glad that my emotional feelings now match the goal I've been pursuing. I have mostly, if not fully, processed that my brother is a monster, and I no longer have any lingering affection for him. As soon as I got the call from the detective that he had been picked up and on the way to the jail, I went straight to my parents to tell them before my brother or his GF could call them. They believed my daughter immediately and understandably were broken-hearted about their son. They are so hurt for their grandchild. However, they've made it clear they will not leave their son, saying, "I cannot abandon any of my children. I just don't have it in me." The morning after the arrest, they bailed him out of jail and then got him an attorney so he would have better defense than a public defender. It's been about 7 weeks since the arrest. Since then, they have kept out of the court process and don't talk about it. They don't even want to think about it. I've been trying to understand their point of view. He is their child too. I've gone through my own process of screaming and crying how he could do this to me, to my child. It was incredibly hard to picture this person I loved and trusted my whole life as being this monster. I get it. I understand how hard it has to be for my parents to fully accept this reality. The offender has war-related PTSD and depression, and he discontinued psych meds abruptly. He is claiming this is what caused his behavior. I looked into these meds and asked several mental health professionals about this claim. My takeaway is that it was BS. My parents, on the other hand, are buying into it, that this is a mental illness and not his fault. They're in denial. My siblings and their children have easily but painfully decided to cut the perp out of their life, so I don't have any worries there. Their support solely lies on my daughter and I, and what I need to do. The first thing I said to my sisters when they answered my video call was, "Please don't leave me," because I really didn't know who could stand by my side as I prosecuted our brother. And all of my siblings have stood by my side through every step. I don't think I would have succeeded without their support, help, advice. However, my parents have made it clear they are not cutting him out of their life. They think they can somehow support both of their children through this. They're old, lonely, and I acknowledge they're suffering, their family falling apart. I know the emotional toll this is taking on them, and maybe having to handle emotions so deep at their age is too much. They have told me that I did the right thing and that I did what I had to do. They say they support me, and they are so torn up about what my daughter suffered. They keep saying, "What happened to him? What happened to him to be like this?" They're having a hard time, and it's really a devastation for everyone. My mom told me she is depressed. My parents look like they've aged so much in the past few weeks. To be honest, I was terrified that they would have heart attacks when I told them what was happening. I was mentally preparing to have to plan funerals while pursuing a conviction. My parents aren't perfect, but they've always supported me. I was a teen mom. They helped with childcare so I could go through school and work. My kids are bonded to them. I seem to be the only person seriously considering dropping them. I don't want to cut my parents out in their last years and take that away from my children, but I can't stand the idea of being connected to anyone who remains connected to that monster. Even the victim wants to see her grandparents knowing they won't abandon their son. She doesn't like that they won't cut him out, but she said she is okay to keep seeing her grandparents. Am I even the slightest bit wrong in cutting them out, even if it means severing it for my kids too? Is it awful to abandon your elderly parents? I've been raised with a strong duty to family mindset, that you take care of your parents as they age. Everyone in my life says they don't know. They understand both my feelings and my parents' limitations. Would it be better to give them an ultimatum, me and my family, or him? I'm so scared if I add any more to the stress on them, it will really kill them. If the victim wants to stay connected to them, should I suck it up and continue with the contact? At what point am I being selfish and unreasonable against everyone else's feelings? Just wanted to add that my primary focus is about my daughter. I'm not mentioning her really because my question isn't about her, and her condition isn't up for discussion. I don't want the offender or his supporting fiancé to read things about how my child is doing or what is going on with my family at home, considering the active case. By the way, my brother's fiancé is the only person who called my daughter a liar, stating that I would have some indication that he was like this. There would be red flags. This comes from a girl who was raised by a therapist, and she called my daughter a liar even after I told her that there was a recorded confession. There's no question about it. Disgusting. Just be assured that everything is being handled at home for the victim. My husband and I got her. My family is suffering, but we are strong. There's no confusion about that, and what needs to be done. We are fighting like hell for justice, even if I'm screaming and dying inside the whole way. My confusion is only about cutting my parents out of my family's life for maintaining contact with the offender. And believe me, he is guilty. I don't even need a conviction to know it. My parents also know he is guilty. OP is not an AH. Rather, her parents are AH who are supporting their criminal son. It is really insane to have such selfish parents. They are morally perverted and bad people, both for the family and society. They are supporting a heinous crime, just because it was committed by their son. As for scores, I would rate OP's criminal brother 5, and OP's parents 4.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. And OP gets nothing. Let's now jump onto the next story from Nebular Reptile. AITA for getting mad at my boyfriend for not wanting a full-time job? Hello, everyone. This is going to be a lot, but thank you to all who read. My 25F, 24M boyfriend of 5 years lost his dad in surgery about 2 years ago. We both currently live with his 47F mom. Before then, he hasn't really been one to hold down a steady job. He really dislikes working for others, and so then has always done things like Uber Eats or last-mile delivery services since then with my car. During that time, he has used my vehicle for a majority of the time, adding about 30 to 40k miles to it in about 2 years. The thought about the wear and tear on my car makes my stomach churn, but I try not to think about it. Anyway, he has acquired his CDL and passed the class this year. Although he feels like he didn't get enough class time, he has looked for jobs but hasn't been able to find any. This is the part that I have a hard time with. He is rather picky and has told me that he only applies for jobs that he considers are worthwhile pay and only local. Mind you, he has 0 experience to show for it. I beg and beg for him to apply for regional at the minimum, although I don't understand why he wouldn't apply for national. because we have no kids and no other obligations that would need him to stay here. The pay is much better, but I digress. He says he can't picture himself working and living in a truck with someone else, and that he'd rarely be home to enjoy that pay. Also, he worries about his mom and doesn't want to leave her alone. Okay, fine. Half a year has passed since he's acquired his CDL, and there's still no news. He'll go to interviews, but won't call for a follow-up. Everything came to a head this past week. My mum was able to purchase a house and had plans to rent it out. However, she has extended this opportunity to us and gave us a chance to move out of his mum's and into that house. We would only be responsible for a fraction of the rent utilities. I spoke to him seriously about it, expressing how important it is for us to be adults now. Once I brought up that he'd need to work full-time, his eyes almost popped out of his head. He genuinely thought we would be able to slide by on him being part-time, although I was going to work full-time. He genuinely didn't expect me to expect the same from him. He then decided to tell me his plans about starting a YouTube channel with his buddy, and that when it starts making revenue, he will quit his job. I lost it there and started crying and telling him that it's so far-fetched, and I hate how he's banking on the fact that this will take off, that it's a great dream to have, but realistically not possible. I called him delusional, and I told him I don't believe at all that it's going to happen, so that he needs to get that idea out of his head and start acting like an adult and coming to terms with working a full-time job. He got mad at me because I didn't believe in him, and that he can't believe I would say such things. At the end of it, he said that he's willing to work full-time, but again, if this takes off, he will quit. If not, he will work full-time. But I'm afraid the damage is done. I think I realized then that I was dating a man-child and that I can't see him in the same light anymore. I asked for a break there and asked for him to secure a job before I can go any further. He cried and begged for me to wait for an interview that's coming up and for me to stay. I'm also partly fed up because he has promised me marriage, but hasn't saved any money for a ring. The thing is though, he treats me so amazingly, and like I'm the princess of his whole world. He has always been very sweet, and anything that I would want or need, he finds a way to get it for me. He's the most patient man I've ever met, and he makes me feel so loved. I don't know if I'm being impatient or not understanding. He tells me that ever since he lost his dad, he has had a lack of motivation, but he doesn't believe in therapy. He has had them before his dad passed, and he found the experience awkward. Seems interested in group talk/therapy, but won't take the steps to join one. At the end of the day, I just want him to grow up and start adulting, but I'm stuck and I don't know what to do. OP is not an AH for wanting her boyfriend to take responsibilities and contribute to their shared future. Not OP, but OP's boyfriend is an AH for living in the paradise of fools and relying on unrealistic plans and making no efforts for his future. As for scores, I would rate OP's boyfriend 2.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Lilith Bol. AITA for screaming at my 34F parents, 63M and 62F for something that happened 20 years ago? I am the middle child of 3. Anna, 41F, Adrian, 28M, and me, Alicia, 34F. All fake names. My oldest sister is currently battling cancer, and she won't make it. The doctors have been clear that she is in her last months. I am her primary caregiver. I take her to appointments, to palliative care, checks, everything. I also deal with her mood swings and withdrawals, the physical assistance she needs, curing her wounds, all the drill. She has 2 kids, 13M, 10F, that have been raised by my parents, 63M and 62F, as her boyfriend, 36M, never really wanted to take care of the kids. So when they were 1 year old, she just dropped them at my parents' place one day and never took them back. She sees them regularly, though. My brother Adrian, on the other hand, lives with the girlfriend in our hometown. I am generally helping them with anything, sometimes even paying vet bills if they're short on cash. I am also the mother of a 3M child, and we live with my partner, 45M, and my stepson, 16M. I WFH full-time, and also do 90% of the house chores as my partner works out of town, so his working and travel hours are long. We live in a medium-sized town, and although the place has all basic services, the university is in the capital, around 100 kilometers away. So if you want to pursue high studies, you need to move either there or somewhere farther. Anna had the opportunity to move there for studies when she was 18, but a couple years later she decided to drop off and came back to our hometown. She has been living here since then. I, on the other hand, despite having a score of 8.6 out of 10 when I finished high school, could not attend university because back in the day my parents were not in good economic terms and we didn't have the means. I decided to take professional formation and I did web development. I also took online university education, and I am just one course away from being a certified practitioner for infant speech. Overall, I did study, and with good results, even if I couldn't make it to university. I am working on the IT field, and it goes fairly good to me. My brother did start his PF education, but did not finish it. He works harvesting the fields nowadays, as we live in a rural area, and that's the type of work you can access to if you are not a qualified professional. On Sunday, I was visiting my parents when we were just generally speaking about studies and the past. My dad suddenly spilled that they did in fact have the money to send me to university 20 years ago, but that they didn't think I would make it. The reason? My sister Anna dropped off and quoting him, "She was a very smart child, so if she couldn't, there was no way you could." My entire past shattered to pieces. I had always made peace with not having a higher education because my family simply couldn't afford it. Just to learn 20 years later that they could, they just didn't think I deserved the chance. Their excuse was that I had to study a lot to go through high school, so I wouldn't last at university. The reason I studied a lot was because I wanted to secure a vacancy in a high-demand career on my preferred university, hence my 8.6 out of 10 final score. They shut down this by restating that Anna and Adrian had always been the smart children, not me. I left their house shortly after when things had heated up, and I was literally screaming at them. When I made it home, I told my partner, 45M, and also that I was not going back to visit them until they at least call me first. I didn't even expect an apology, but they to reach out. He said I was overreacting, as it is something that happened 20 years ago, and I should let the past go. Now I am doubting myself. For me, this happened on Sunday, not 20 years ago. And it is very painful to know how my parents think about me, especially when I have thrived on my field, and I am also taking care of the family all the time. But I don't know. Am I the for how I reacted and what I expect on this situation, or are my feelings justified? OP is 100% justified for her frustration. However, screaming is not a solution. It is not only about just the past. OP's parents' choices are affecting OP life till now. As for scores, I would rate OP's parents 2.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from original_wall A by _779. AITA for reminding my stepsister that she is not my father's daughter. I am a woman, and I am 28 years old, so I left my parents' house long time ago. I have my own house, a job and a fiancé to whom I officially got engaged 3 months ago. My parents divorced when I was 16, but they have maintained civil contact, and I have good relationships with both of them. My father gets with a woman 5 years ago who already had a daughter. She is now 22. My mother gets with a man 7 years ago, and he have 2 sons, 16 and 19 now. I get along pretty well with my stepbrothers, and have always tried to involve them in activities with me, going to the shops, playing video games or board games together, or even just taking them out for a meal. They are good kids, and I enjoy their company, so I tried to bond with them, and luckily everything is good between us. I tried to do the same with my stepsister, but things never went very well. From what I know, she has had several problems since her father abandoned her, and she still goes to therapy for it. So she is not the friendliest person in the world. I tried for a while to understand her, and try to have at least a civil relationship, but it didn't work, so I gave up after the first year. Her mother is a good person, and has apologized several times for her daughter's behavior, begging me not to hold a grudge against her, and I have tried to do so despite everything. Just to give you an idea, my stepsister has abandonment syndrome, diagnosed by her therapist, and is very clingy with her mother, my father, and her boyfriend. My father believes that her hateful behavior towards me is because she sees me as some kind of obstacle that can take my father away from her at any time. He has tried to mediate the situation, talk to her, and have some conversations with her therapist too about it, and we have actually made some progress over the years. Now she is no longer openly against me, and we can even have casual conversations without her giving me the cold shoulder or aggressive responses. However, she still tries to do some spite, even if subtly, to keep my father's attention only on her. I have my job who took away a lot of my time, so I can't really spend much time with my dad, and we mostly talk through calls and texts. But apparently, she has had a meltdown in the past when she saw him reply to a text from me while he was with her. I admit that it's something that bothers me. I can't help it. But luckily my father is able to manage things by giving her the security that he won't abandon her without reducing his time for me. The problem is now, my fiancé and I have decided on a wedding date for the end of May. We told our close relatives 2 weeks ago, and we will soon start making official invitations and sending them to everyone. 2 days ago, while I was at my dad's house and we were talking about when to make the appointment to go look at the wedding dress, I will bring my dad, my mom, my grandma, and my best friend, so I am trying to find a day that works for everyone. My stepsister butts into the conversation, telling my dad that she is planning on taking a family trip with him and her mom. My father was a little taken aback by that request in the middle of another conversation, and simply said that it was fine with him and that they would organize it later, but she immediately said that she had already thought about where to go and when. Apparently, she wants to go to Thailand at the end of May. Yes, the very week that I am supposed to get married. I got annoyed, but I didn't say anything. It was my father who managed the conversation and told her that she had to choose another date because he had to attend my wedding that week. Let's be clear. I also invited her and her mother. I didn't leave them out, and her mother also seemed happy to have been included. Well, the conversation escalated quickly, and she started having an emotional breakdown, accusing my dad of playing favorites, that he didn't love her, that he was leaving her behind, and other things like that. My dad was calm and firm the whole time, explaining to her that she couldn't make such a demand, and expect him to agree, so she started lashing out at me, when she yelled at me, "Why does he always have to choose you?" I lost my temper and replied, "Of course he chooses me. I'm his daughter. Who the hell are you?" She froze, shocked, and then ran to her room to cry. Well, I felt a bit bad right after I said that because I know her problems, but I can't deny that her behavior really bothered me. I mean, what did she expect? That my father would skip his own daughter's wedding to go on vacation with her? A vacation that we all know she wanted to take the week of my wedding on purpose? My father was also a bit upset by my words, and I apologized to him, telling him that I felt sorry for her and her problems. But I had tolerated her behavior for so long that this was the last straw. He said he understood me and would try to work things out with her, but it was clear that I had hurt him too with my words. I admit I was harsh, but I don't feel guilty for saying it to her. It was the truth after all. But should I have had more consideration for her, letting my dad solve the problem without saying anything? When I think about my father's eyes full of pain, I feel really a jerk. OP is not the AH for clarifying to her stepsister that she was just her stepsister. However, OP's response was a little harsh, and she could have handled the situation better. So, I would rate OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. As for OP's stepsister, I would rate her 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale for manipulating OP's father and trying to sabotage OP's wedding by scheduling a foreign trip in the week when OP was getting married. Let's now jump on to the next story from Wolfbite 4444. AITA. Stepmom comments on food portions and shames us, so I spoke up at Thanksgiving. I, 35F, thought I set a healthy boundary on Thanksgiving with my stepmom, 59F. But I am starting to feel like an AH and I would like some input, because if I am the AH, I want to hold myself accountable. I need to provide a little background here for people to understand the situation. My stepmom has been around since I was 5-ish, and she has a daughter that is 2 years younger than me. Stepmom had an eating disorder that was so bad, it caused her heart problems and all sorts of health problems. She is no longer bulimic, but still has an unhealthy relationship with food. I remember when we were teenagers, my stepmom was calling herself fat because she could no longer fit into a size 0 anymore. This led to my younger sister crying because my sister wore a size 3, and that must mean she is fat too. My sister and I grew up hating our bodies and feeling extremely insecure. Stepmom would only give me backhanded compliments like, "Ugh, I hate you. You are so pretty. Just get out of my house. We can't have someone that pretty here." and I would always just sort of laugh it off and roll my eyes. She has said this exact same thing to me since my teenage years and still does it in my 30s. My sister now has 3 children, and she has told her mother that she is not to comment on body image, food portions, or anything negative about herself in front of the children or to the children. Stepmom still makes comments under her breath like, "Wow, that's a lot of food," or "Are you sure you can even eat all that?" or just looks at someone's plate with judgment in her eyes. 2 weekends ago, the youngest child ate all of her chicken and veggies and went to the kitchen where her mom was doing the dishes. She asked her mom for more mac and cheese, and her mom served her 2 scoops. When the child came back to the table, she said, "Oh my God, insert name," while looking at the child's plate. This pissed me off. Nobody heard her but me and the other children, because the guys were watching the football game. Fast forward to Thanksgiving. My sister and her kids were out of town. Lucky them. It was my dad, stepmom's sister, my boyfriend, and a family friend. Her sister got up to get a second serving, and when she did, stepmom said, "OMG, insert name." I could no longer bite my tongue, especially because I had a glass of wine before dinner. So, I spoke up and said, "You know, Dash, when you make comments about how much other people are eating or their portion sizes, it can be very hurtful and comes across very rudely. You did it to Dash last weekend, and you have done it to other family members in the past. Please stop making those comments because it can be damaging, especially to the children." She didn't say a word, and my dad quickly changed the subject. We moved on and enjoyed the rest of the night. I thought a boundary had been established and she would stop with her BS, since she was called out and aware of it now. Boy, was I wrong. Yesterday, I received a call from stepmom while my dad wasn't home with her. I answered the call, not thinking anything of it, and she proceeded to tell me how rude and uncalled for it was for me to call her out in front of everyone, that I owe her the respect of speaking to her privately if I have an issue, that I should not have ruined Thanksgiving with my unnecessary reaction to what she said. She then proceeded to tell me she never makes comments about people's food. I told her that is not true. She had done it the other day to her granddaughter, and has done it countless times to other family members. She then claimed, "When I say, oh my God, I just mean like, oh my God. They must love the food so much that they are going back for seconds, and I take it as the ultimate compliment. You are wrong. You shouldn't have said anything." This pissed me off. To full-on deny it and then twist it around on me? So I responded, "No, you aren't insinuating that with your comments and tones. You make these comments probably not realizing how it comes across." I politely responded to what you said, pointing out that it's rude and hurtful. You said it in front of everyone, as you always do, so I responded to it in front of everyone. Maybe you don't realize how damaging it is, but your past comments gave sister and me a lot of body image issues, and we're not going to sit here and allow you to pass that on to sister's kids. She was silent. Then she started crying. With my history, I would never do that. Is this an emotional manipulation tactic? IDK. But I said, "Listen, I won't apologize for establishing a healthy boundary and calling someone out on their unhealthy behavior. Maybe it was the wrong time, wrong place, but I am so tired of biting my tongue and being a doormat to avoid one of your emotional outbursts." Another point for history, when you try to point something out or correct her on something, she will throw up her hands, cause a fit, say something like, "Well, I guess I'm just an idiot," or something to that effect, and storm off and hide in a bedroom. She doesn't have the ability or maturity to regulate her own emotions. Everyone walks on eggshells around her, and we always have. Everyone got used to not speaking up for themselves to avoid the drama. After I mentioned trying to avoid one of her emotional outbursts, she responded saying, "I have been working so hard on not going off and overreacting. I am trying. You should have pulled me aside and said something." I wanted to end the conversation right then and there, so I said, "Maybe it was the wrong time, wrong place, but my intent was to bring attention to this behavior, and I wanted witnesses around us, so my words couldn't be misconstrued and turned against me. But I stand by what I said. I have a busy day, and I am trying to get out the door. If you want to talk to sister about this further, and get your daughter's input on how this has affected us all in the past, feel free to." And I hung up the phone. It felt good to stand my ground, but now I have feelings of guilt. My sister is sticking up for me. Her mom hasn't called her yet, but my sister thanked me for sticking up for everyone. When her mom calls and asks, Did I/do I do this? Sister is planning on being honest and calling her out and giving her examples from the past. Even so, I feel guilty. I feel like an AH. I feel like I should keep the peace and bite my tongue and just continue to walk on eggshells. I don't want to cause drama. I want to continue to see my dad regularly without the awkwardness of his wife. Was I rude to call it out right then and there? Do I feel guilty because I am not used to setting healthy boundaries with family? AITA. OP is not an AH for addressing a long-standing issue of her stepmom's behavior that always crosses boundaries. However, addressing it publicly might seem a little bit off. Whatever, OP did nothing wrong. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and OP's stepmom 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Throwaway 249724. AITA for telling a 4-year-old child that I'm not her boyfriend? I'm a gay man who is best friends with a few parents. Being 32, obviously I'd have friends with children. I made friends with this woman, we'll call her Helga, 26F, who had a 4-year-old child who just started learning about what boundaries are and, at the same time, what a boyfriend is. I went to hang out at her place because she was inviting a lot of people over for a game night. Her 4-year-old daughter wanted to stay up and hang out with the adults. She's an only child, so obviously she's going to be excited when new people come around. She, unfortunately, took a strange liking to me. Anytime I'd start talking to someone, she'd interrupt me with, OP, can I ask you something? Or, OP, can you help me with something? Please? I'd put on my best uncle voice and say, yes, honey. She would ask me to either get her something to drink or she would ask me questions that 4-year-old children would ask. She would also try to sit next to me, or in front of me, so I would pay attention to her. She would hand me a stuffed animal and tell me to hold it. She would also grab my hand and show me her favorite toys and ask me to play, even though I'd tell her that I'm here to hang out with her mom, but a friend of Helga's made a joke to her daughter. Is OP your boyfriend, honey? The daughter grabs my arm and says, yes, he's my boyfriend. I stood there in silence, staring at Helga's friend. Helga looked at her and said, great. Now she thinks OP is going to be her boyfriend in real life. Helga looks at me and mouths, I'm sorry. I don't play along, however. I pull my arm out from the daughter's grip and say, I'm sorry, honey, but I can't be your boyfriend because my boyfriend is at home. He doesn't share. Helga's daughter gets sad, not only because I move my arm, but because I told her I am not her boyfriend. Her face sunk down, and she put her head down. She ran to her room and started screaming bloody murder and wailed so loud, you thought I stole her toy. The room was awkwardly silent, but all you could hear was the poor girl crying so loud. Helga ran to console her child, but the friend scolded me because I should have played along. But I think it's unfair to lie to a child. Am I the for breaking a 4-year-old's heart? Update. Hi, so I know this is a quick update, but a lot can happen in a group chat in the morning. Helga made a group chat with all of us days before game night called Game Night Buddies. That friend, we'll call her Harris, who made the boyfriend comment, got kicked out of the group after Helga, and the other 3 told her what she did was wrong. Helga called her out. She told her it was not okay to say that, especially since I'm a gay man, and Helga is very supportive of the LGBTQIA+ community. Helga Private messaged me saying she hates when gays are labeled as pedophiles and groomers, and Harris's comment was pretty much a setup to make me the bad guy. Helga also told me that she had to have a talk with her daughter after all of us left. In the group, Harris was trying to defend herself by saying, it's just a joke. The kid doesn't know any better. Helga said, when an impressionable child doesn't know the difference between a friend and a boyfriend, you don't make comments like that. Harris then made the comment that I needed to have lessons in parenting and said that what I said was inappropriate because my is harmful to hear for children. Then she scolded Helga for inviting me in the first place. The other 3 defended me and Helga, but one of them said I could have been a little nicer about it, which I agree. I shouldn't have said he doesn't share, and just said something along the lines that would tell the kid that she should only think of me as a friend. Helga and the other 3 called Harris a homophobe, then asked for my input. I unfortunately was asleep when all of this was happening, so I couldn't make a comment. Harris made 2 comments before she removed herself from the group. Y'all need Jesus. Jesus doesn't like gay people. Gay people shouldn't be around kids in the first place. Kids need protections from perverts. If I make a joke like that, it's because the joke is funny. Y'all can never take a joke. So needless to say, Harris is not allowed to be around the group ever. Helga did ask me to come over with my boyfriend to have a chat with her daughter about lessons in boundaries. I told my boyfriend about what happened, and he literally wanted to have a talk with Harris more than Helga or the child. My boyfriend agreed to come talk with Helga though. But yes, we're getting things taken care of, and as the saying goes, trash always takes itself out. Update 2. I'd like to do a little bit of housekeeping before the final update. For those of you saying I think it's creepy that you think I should have played along. I've showed Helga the post, and she agrees it's very creepy. Helga has read this post, and she thinks that what I did was valid. Although, yes, she agrees with some of you, I should have let her down in a different way. She still says that what I did was valid. She said her daughter should learn honesty, and that honesty is the best policy. Helga's daughter learned what a boyfriend was, because Helga has a boyfriend who loves her daughter like she's his own. The daughter's father died from cancer a couple of years ago. The boyfriend came into their lives about a year and a half ago. The real update, my boyfriend, we'll call him Jesse, and I went to Helga to talk to her daughter. Immediately when I opened the door, Helga's daughter came running up to me and gave me a hug. She said, "I'm sorry for calling you my boyfriend, Uncle OP." I did get down to her level and said, "Hey honey, let's go talk in the living room with Mama and Uncle Jesse, okay?" She nodded and ran into the living room and sat next to Helga. The conversation went like this. Helga explained to her that some people have boundaries and that there are things you don't say out loud without approval. She told her that there is power in labels, and she said it was more appropriate to refer to me and Jesse as uncles. The daughter then asked if we could play a game with her. Jesse stepped up and played Tea Party in the living room, while me and Helga talked about Harris and how awful she was. Harris made a vague passive-aggressive post that said, "Some of y'all should be aware of who your friends are. They never know what they'll support." The whole time, we were laughing about how stupid and homophobic Harris was being. Finally, we decided to have another game night, but she said her daughter will be spending a full weekend with her granny and pawpaw. Jesse is actually coming as well. There are the updates. Much love to you. OP is not an AH for making a child upset. Rather, OP's friend is an AH for scolding him to tell a lie to the child. OP's reaction is 100% justified. OP's intention is not to hurt the child's feelings, he is just fair in his dealings. So, I would rate the OP's friend 3.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story. From Entertainment, Odd 1196. AITA for saying stuff about my sister's BF. I, 17F, have a sister Lily, who is 21. She and I didn't grow up in the same house. I was raised by my father, she was raised by our mum, but we did grow up as close we could in our situation, and I considered her the closest to me out of all of my siblings. Around 8 or so months ago, she ended up leaving a toxic relationship, one out of frankly many, and she went to live with our aunt and uncle. She and I didn't call or text for a few months because of a lot of things that are going on in our lives, but after a month or two of not speaking, I called my aunt and uncle to say hi, and they told me some news. My sister, who had spent her entire life telling me how much she didn't want to have kids, was pregnant. I was shocked, especially since the news didn't come from her. I called her right after, and she seemed completely numb and out of it. She told me what happened, and I suggested other options. She quickly turned that down, but I could tell how much she was hesitant about all of this. I asked about the baby's father, and she told me it was her current boyfriend's, a new one, not the abusive one. I didn't know anything about him, so I didn't judge or say anything. Over the next few months, I talked to her periodically, but not as much as before. I could see her confidence and excitement grow, which made me feel a lot better and happier for her. I still hadn't met her boyfriend though. Around when she was about 7 months pregnant, my mom called me and told me that she and my aunt, not the one my sister was staying with, were going to plan a baby shower for her. So, me, my dad, and my stepmom decided to drive 2 states away to it. Like I said before, I only got to see this side of my family periodically, and not in a while since COVID, so I was really excited. I went to their house, and my mom, my aunt, and my cousin and her sister-in-law were there. They practically grew up together, so it makes sense. And I said hi. I didn't see my sister at first, but then I saw her sitting in the corner with a guy I assumed was her boyfriend. She got up to hug me quickly before returning back to her seat and talking with the dude, who just nodded a quick hello. I said hi and introduced myself, and he did the same. It was all very odd to say the least. This was usually not the energy me and my sister's reunions have, but I chalked it up to the drive up and her just being pregnant. I went out back to get some food and chatted with my aunt and uncle as my dad came in and greeted everyone. We did the cake and presents, and things felt better after that. After we finished and things settled, my sister took me aside with her boyfriend. She explained that they were engaged, and I was shocked and happy for them. I hugged her, and she told me something else. She asked if I didn't tell anyone about the wedding and if I would be a bridesmaid. I happily agreed and then asked why shouldn't I tell everyone else. She looked at her boyfriend and explained that she wanted today to be the last time she saw everyone who was there. Her boyfriend jumped in to say that he wanted to monitor who was in his child's life. I was extremely taken aback. Her relationship with our mother I got, but she loved my aunt so much. It was just so odd. I didn't pry but told my dad and stepmom on the side. My stepmom pointed out her relationship with her mom, but I asked about my aunt, to which she saw my point. I just sat in the corner of the yard after that, and my sister's boyfriend came to talk to me one-on-one finally. It was the first and only time I've seen them apart, mind you, since they arrived, and last since they left. And, for a guy who's been awfully quiet for the past few hours, he started yapping. He talked about his life and his family, and started talking to me about how he used to be on Nickelodeon. He told me to check his page on IMDb, and how he was best friends with all of these celebrities. I said I didn't believe him, and he quickly pulled up images of himself and other celebrities on his phone. He was scrolling through these pictures a mile a minute, so I didn't have any real reason to actually doubt them, not enough time to take closer looks. I shrugged, and was convinced, since why would he be lying? He went on to talk about more insane things, about his family and upbringing, and I still didn't fully believe him, so I went to ask my sister. She looked at me with a serious face and said, "No, he's not lying, I swear to God." And so I was like, okay. My sister really isn't the kind of person to lie like that, truly, even with all the other weird behavior. They had to leave early because of work, so we saw them off. Almost the moment after they left, I got curious. I recognized a clip of an episode of iCarly that he claimed that he guest starred in. It was a big enough role to be named, think an episodic villain, and looked up the actor on IMDb, and lo and behold, it wasn't him. I looked his name up on IMDb, and of course, he was nowhere to be found. I went outside and asked my cousin and aunts about this, and they just all gave each other looks. Turns out, he's been telling everyone outlandish stories about his life, and gets extremely mad when someone says that they don't believe him. He also had an old habit, when he first visited my grandparents' house, of intimidating my sister physically. He would stop when my uncle would notice and step up. He's also been known to be rude to my mom, who him and my sister were staying with at the moment. I got extremely mad and extremely heartbroken. I told my parents about everything, and they're very much the type to not jump to conclusions, but they agreed it all felt very sketchy. I was looking through the internet to see if I could find anything about the pictures that her boyfriend showed me, and I found almost all of them on discrete Pinterest fan pages. I realized that the pictures with him in them were either blurry or were just younger kids who looked vaguely like him. I was livid, and I impulsively texted my sister to tell her. I first asked her again if what he's been saying about his life is real, and she said yes, firmly. And I told her I don't quite believe it, and she said, "That's fine." And I started to tell her my doubts about the guy, and she started getting slightly defensive, so I cooled it. After a few hours, though, she tells me that she's getting kicked out of my mom's place, because mom got into a fight with her boyfriend. Shocker. And she told me that she heard that I said more about her boyfriend. I admit I did go off when she wasn't there, but the main points were there. I told her again that I don't think it's a good idea to tie yourself to this man legally yet, and she hasn't answered since. It's only been a few hours, but I'm scared that I just became one of the people that she and her boyfriend, fiancé I guess, wanted to monitor out of her and their babies' lives. I don't think I was wrong for telling her how I felt about him, but I feel bad about talking about it behind their backs. AITA? OP is not an AH for protecting the well-being of her sister. OP's sister's fiancé is an AH for being dishonest and manipulative. OP's reaction is 100% reasonable. So, I would rate OP's sister's fiancé 2.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Ecstatic Mode 7748. AITA for coming to my friend's 18th birthday party and others choosing not to attend. Firstly, let me give you a bit of background. I come from a small town where everybody knows everybody. I struggled with this growing up as a individual on the journey to finding my identity. Throughout my time in high school, I struggled a lot with my mental health in silence, and consequently, changed how I acted to try to fit in. I never truly felt like I fit in or was myself. Because of this, I bounced around a lot of friendship groups. Throughout high school, I made a lot of bad decisions and hurt some people, for example, creating a satire hate page for curly heads, which I now am through a perm. Another thing was fully backing my friend when they were accused of being stayed by another member of the year group in year 7. It turned out to be false, but I believed I was doing the right thing, based on what I was told by the media. Anyways, onto the situation. Since I left high school, I have had no contact with anyone from the school. I have made 2 amazing best friends, whom I have been close with for several years, including high school, we will call them Layla and Piper, and some other friends through them, such as Winnie, the girl whose 18th birthday it is. I went to school with Winnie for a brief time, but she decided to leave and study elsewhere halfway through, so we lost contact before regaining it. A few weeks ago, Layla told me that our friend Winnie, who we often go on drives and listen to music with, was having her 18th birthday. I don't usually speak to Winnie alone or online, always in group chats or in the cars with others. So, when Layla told me about Winnie's party, I was not surprised that I hadn't received a direct invitation. Layla said that she would ask if Piper and I were invited to Winnie's 18th when we next all went on a drive, or she would text her if we didn't see her that week. Unfortunately, we didn't see Winnie that week, so Layla shot her a message asking about the party. Winnie is one of those people who reads a message and forgets to respond. A few days later, I was hanging out at Layla's and asked if she had seen or heard from Winnie, and she hadn't. So I messaged her asking if she had seen Layla's message. She responded to the message instantly and then FaceTimed us, and among various other conversation topics, asked if Piper and I were coming to the party, to which we said yes. After returning from Layla's house, my phone exploded. Since Winnie had told the other attendees that I would be attending, they had started bringing up our high school days from over half a decade ago and using them as reasons why they didn't want me there. Winnie explained to them that she had invited someone she was close to and that she was sorry but she wanted me there, and they should respect that. Now this is where Keely comes in. Keely and I have had a rocky past. In primary school, 7 years, there was an incident involving a physical altercation between us both, 10 or 11 years old at the time, which led to me being told I was going to be put on a hate crime list. At this point, Keely was a member of the LGBTQIA+ community, and I was still in the closet. Keely was also the person whom I and other members wrongly accused of saying our friend mentioned earlier. She gave Winnie a hard time about me coming, alongside another member of the group, Daphne, doing the same. Daphne worked for a brief period with my ex-boyfriend, and he and I did not leave things on good terms after I ended the relationship. So I was not surprised if bad things/rumors had been said about me, as he had threatened that 3 weeks before I broke up with him. Daphne mentioned to Winnie an essay accusation made against me at a Halloween party last year by a female. It has since been proven false by the formal institutions, which we both worked for at the time. Keely also said that they thought Layla would spike their drink, with no reason to say so. What they said has hurt me and my friends, and I thought about not attending, but I have decided I want to be there for my friend and other people who are responsible for their actions, and whether they choose to be a good friend to Winnie and put our differences aside. Both Winnie and Layla have messaged Keely trying to reassure her about the party and asking her to attend, to which she became more and more histrionic before being downright rude to Layla. In the end, after Keely and Daphne said they wouldn't be attending, Winnie decided to ask the rest of the people she knew from our school not to attend, and that she wanted to have a smaller, more intimate event with Layla, Winnie, another one of Winnie's friends, Nova, and me. Since then, Keely has posted to this group, which Winnie and I, among others, have seen. I can see parts of where she's coming from, but I feel that a lot of what she has said has been skewed or is complete lies. Either way, this has just made Winnie feel 1000x worse about the situation, the opposite of what I wanted from attending. I feel honestly terrible about what has happened and feel like in trying to celebrate and be there for my friend, I have isolated her and ruined her special day with my mere presence. I don't know what to do. AITA? OP is not an AH for attending the party, despite her ex-friend Keely being an AH for damaging OP's reputation in the past and continuing to do so. OP is very fair in her dealing with Keely. So I would rate Keely 3.5 out of 5 and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump on to the next story from Outside the Box, 1963. AITA for thinking outside the box and teaching my MIL lesson. My husband and I have been together for 37 years. We have 6 children. However, we have only been married for 7 years. We wanted to have all the children grown and not have to worry about anything financial, just to have a wedding. Neither one of us believes in spending tons of money on a dress you're only going to wear once, to feed tons of people only 2 or 3 different dishes, to have only one big giant cake, and to pay somebody else to use their building. We just think that's a lot of waste of money. It's beautiful when someone else does it, but that's just not us. Now my husband has 3 other siblings. None of them like their mother, but they put up with her at family functions only. My husband told me out of all the girls that he brought home, his mother treated me halfway more decent than the rest of them. He thinks it's because I come from money. I have a lot of friends and a lot of family. His father passed away before our wedding, and both my parents were gone before our wedding. Now that you have a little background, MIL found out that we were finally getting married, called me up, and said she wanted to help plan the wedding. I knew somehow she wanted to make it about her and ruin the day. With my devious pettiness, I said yes, you could help me plan it, and as a matter of fact, you could be my MO. I told her I would pay for everything, and I wanted it to be a surprise wedding. And I wanted her to pick the decorations, the colors, the dress, the venue, all of it. The only thing that I asked was she use my vendors that I had chosen the year before by doing background checks on them to make sure that they were good people. Every vendor is one of my friends in disguise. I told her that I would give them her number, and they would reach out to her to go over the planning with her. You never saw a person's face light up and get so excited that she's going to have complete control over her son's wedding. I have quite a few friends she has never seen or heard of. That called her up. Printed out pictures of different things of whatever company they were with, such as cake, such as decoration, such as material colors, such as wedding dresses and the flowers. Each one had a luncheon with her. She paid to feed them and gave a $50 deposit after she picked whatever she wanted out of their little notebooks. Each friend brought back the $50 deposit because it had to be in cash, gave it to me, and once she made the arrangements with all of them, I gave her the cash back telling her, "Thank you for putting down the deposit for each thing." Still, she had a large smile on her face, even hugged me, and said thank you for letting her be a part of this. And I'm going to be very surprised and very pleased with my wedding. It turns out the color theme was green, not just one shade of green, all kinds of green. She found a wedding dress through a friend of mine online that was green and a nice pretty white long dress that was for her to wear. My friend told her that she would order the wedding dress itself for me because it went with my bill, but MIL needed to buy her own dress that she was going to wear that day. So she showed her how to order online because MIL had never done that before. I sent out invitations to everybody the day after I told MIL she was going to be my MOH. In my invitations was a letter stating we were getting married the first Saturday of October, but do not let MIL know the date or the venue. I told my MIL we wanted to get married the first Saturday of November. Now, because all of my friends are down to earth, so is my family and his, and the letters I sent out, I told everyone to come in nice, comfortable clothing. We were renting a large pavilion in a park. There was to be no gift bringing. However, everybody had to bring a dish. I had 16 of the white 8-foot-long tables, put into 4 rows. One row was vegetables and side dishes. One row was the meat and casseroles. Another row was all the desserts. And the last row was all the culinary and drinks. One of my uncles did a fish fry at the end of the meat row. One of my cousins was a DJ and brought his equipment and played music. Then later, only let the kids do karaoke. I did not have a photographer. I told everyone to take as many pictures as they could with their phones. I would sit down with each and every one, pick out 2 or 3, have them printed, and create my own wedding album. Which personally, some of the pictures that were taken, I think turned out much better than any photographer could have done. It all looked natural, and no setup of fake smiles. Everyone had a blast. My wedding cost $600 USD. Oh, I forgot to tell you, we got married at the courthouse. $25 US, sign a piece of paper, say I do, get the heck out. 1 month later, MIL shows up to the church only to discover no cars in the parking lot and the doors are locked. Instead of calling us, she then ran to the venue to discover nothing is decorated, the doors to the room are locked, and even the manager there doesn't know what she's talking about, like she was crazy this entire time running around in a white wedding dress. When she finally got a hold of my husband, he let her know we were already married, Already had our wedding and reception, and there was no way in she double hockey sticks that I would have liked anything that she had chosen, and she did it all out of spite, and this was her repercussion for acting the way she did. To this day, when she shows up at a family function, everyone is still cordial until she starts to bring it up about the wedding. Then they look at her and tell her either shut up or get out. So AITA for doing this to her? Or am I just the queen of petty? No matter how you look at me, I will always have a smile on my face. Everyone sucks here. OP is a little bit AH for intending to teach a lesson to her mother-in-law. Although OP's mother-in-law did wrong to her in the past, OP's intention to mislead her mother-in-law is wrong. So I would rate OP 1.5 and OP's mother-in-law 1 out of 5 on the AH scale. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.